Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Sin, and today we're going to be reviewing my 2023 Range Rover Sport. Now, in this review, it's not necessarily going to be the same as what you've seen commonly from other people's videos, since everybody, and by everybody I mean all the big channels that have had this vehicle and have been able to go over every possible thing that you can about them. Well, I'd be wasting your time if I was to try and go over those things with even a modicum of the same amount of clarity that they did. So instead, what we're going to be looking at is an owner's perspective, because they don't have that, because they don't own one. But I do. And I have to say, just right out of the gates, this is my favorite vehicle ever. This is something that I never thought that I would have wanted. I never once pictured myself with a Land Rover branded vehicle, and frankly the reasoning is because of all the stories that you've heard about reliability, this or that, and I believed those things. I believed that these vehicles largely were junk, and I am one of those people that am always open to having my mind changed on something. I don't like to stick to something and play hardball with it, because the fact of the matter is I don't know, right? How can I say, as someone who hasn't owned a thing or whatever it might be in the context, if I haven't, enough knowledge? It just doesn't make any sense. And so being able to sit here as the owner of a vehicle that I never once thought in a million years that I would have purchased, well, here we are. So initial impressions based on this, and I guess what led me down this route, I had a really nice 2022 Explorer ST, and I really loved that vehicle. And that was my first SUV purchase. Well, technically second, because I bought a different Explorer before that, but then it was only 4 months later that I bought the second. Anyway, that was my first real SUV purchase, and I never saw myself outside of anything that wasn't a two-door, coupe or sports car. I just didn't. SUVs, I never really understood what they were all about until really I had, tested the one and kind of fell in love with the idea and loved the higher ride height and some of the other comfort and feature amenities that you get in vehicles like these that you don't in the smaller, sportier vehicles. Now, of course, are you getting all the fun of the, top-down experience? I had an Audi S5 convertible. No, of course not. But now in this particular vehicle, unlike my last Explorer / SUV, I have a panoramic moonroof, one that opens up, a pretty decent ways, as we can see by the sunlight coming up through here, and extends all the way down until the middle of the cabin there. And having this automatically changes so much of the total experience, and it kind of comes alongside the greenhouse that we have in this vehicle too. There's just so much openness and windows, and that's what I love about, really any driving component nowadays. Perhaps it's coming with my age, and speaking of, I think it's also a unique perspective in that here I am, fortunately in my 20s with a vehicle like this, and it didn't come by some sudden chance of a lottery win or parents' money or the new age version, which is a YouTuber. Sure, yes, here I am doing a video, but that's obviously, look at my stuff. We're not even close to anything that really matters right now, but I'd like to think that maybe one day I'll at least be slightly up there. Again, I have no intentions of competing with the big guys, because that's what they do. And while something like that would be fun, I don't know what that would be like as a full-time job, and only they could say. So, trailing back to what's really at hand here, again, 2023 Range Rover Sport, we have the complete cloud interior, and so this was an absolute for me. And the reasoning why is, does it get more luxurious, or rather just eye-catching than an all-white leather interior? I think not. And the way that this extends throughout the cabin is just remarkable. And the contrast that we end up getting within the Meridian Sound speaker grill over here, or case covering, is pretty remarkable. And if I could have had white, there's a couple other places like the little pillar blocks. That would be nice if they were this white tone too. But all in all, what we have here between the headliner and what again runs throughout the actual surfaces is pretty darn cool. We're aptly focusing on my particular choices here. As you can see, all of the seats within the back and the leather down here, it's all white. And the only way possible to get the all white interior, and this actually goes as far as the caraway, or it's the medium brown tone interior, the only way that you can get that is if you get the P360, which is going to be the SE trim of the Range Rover Sport. And in the beginning, I only saw myself getting the dynamic, and that was the P400, and that's the one that comes with, really, the only thing different is you get the trim seats, which, again, I prefer all solids, and you get the stronger engine, and on the outside, you get some differences as far as the cosmetics, particularly pertaining to an extra little plastic piece that runs across one of the side decals, and an extra, the bottom side skirt is body color as opposed to in the P360, where it's that sort of mattish grayish plastic, which, believe it or not, I prefer for several reasons, but primarily because it gives contrast to the vehicle colors. It doesn't make it just look, it lessens the wide bodiness of it and kind of slims it up, and so that's something that I really like. So when you factor in the difference of 40 horsepower and roughly, again, 40 pound-feet of torque, in a real-world sense, as far as everything that I've been doing within all of my driving, you can't notice a darn thing. And it just, to me, it's irrelevant. It really is. And though the pricing piece wasn't a concern, for the extra $7,000, it's just not worth it, especially considering you can get every single feature, every single option between any of the trims. So really, the best part about Land Rover's build process, at least in the case of the Range Rover Sport, is that you can pick and choose what you want. And that actually leads me into the next part of this video, which is this particular vehicle that I'm in is not going to be my only Range Rover Sport. And the reason why is because this one, as it stands, is temporary. So I'm going to cut to some exterior shots for a moment here to give you the full, exterior. And so there it is. This isn't the color that I wanted. This isn't the same specification as some of the features and amenities and packages that I wanted. The color on this one, as you saw, was the Eiger Gray. And this particular one has the ceramic coat finish, which ordinarily, without experiencing it, I would have thought was just a a dealer add-on so that it can continue to rip you off. But it does have the added versatility of really keeping things a lot more clean, actually remarkably so. And so would I get it on my own vehicle at this point? Maybe. It's a $2,000 extra, and as far as experiencing the rain and some of these other elements, most of the stuff just kind of brushes on off there. It's really, really crazy. But that does take away the convenience of being able to just drive through a normal car wash. And I'm certain a number of people will want to crucify me for having said that I would take a higher end vehicle, or any sort of vehicle for that matter, into an automatic car wash. But, well, I'm not going to stop. Well, okay, in this car, I'm going to stop because I don't want to ruin the ceramic paint thing. So that's for this one. But moving forward, cutting back once again as I continue to stray off topic, the color choice on this again is the Eiger Gray, and I personally went with the Santorini Black. And so I have an all black, and at least this one has the same exact wheels that I opted for, and seeing them in person is so much different than looking at them in any of the photos or online. They just look so good, and I was never really a wheel sort of person. I mostly didn't care, and so these ones being the 22-inch rims, I would prefer that they were a little bit smaller. If I could have had them in a 21 or possibly even 20, I think that with the silhouette, it probably would look pretty cool. But as they stand, 22, not so bad. Actually, they do look pretty great with the overall package. The 23s, which are again another option, I'm not sternly a fan of. I'm not. They're just a little too big for me, and a lot of people have mentioned aspects regarding ride quality and how that's affected with the bigger size wheels and tires and so forth. And I can't testify to those things because I earnestly don't know. I haven't tested any of the smaller ones. The test model that they had at the dealership I got this from, which I driven several times, had the 22s, and I didn't notice any flaws or mistakes. So I couldn't say what a smaller or larger rim size would or how that would affect it. But I'm pretty content with what we have here. And then as far as the package differences, well, the way that this particular vehicle is optioned, well, outside of the cloud interior, well, really the short and skinny of it is that this one's optioned with nothing that I would have gone for myself, or rather nothing that I did go for myself on my build that I'm waiting on. And that leads me into why we're talking about a second vehicle, and that is I have pre-ordered one of these in all of my favorite specifications and the way that I want it from me. And so this particular vehicle came about through a sheer number of coincidences and factors, amongst the skies and divines. And I was at least lucky enough to be able to have that first opportunity to purchase it. I mean, really the day that it didn't work out for the person who did originally order this particular vehicle. And, I would be lying if I said that part of me didn't feel a little bit bad knowing that I'm driving and riding in the hopes and dreams of somebody else. It's not great. But what I will say is it's a pretty good time. So if the person who ordered this happens to see this vehicle and notices all the things that they had configured, not they like that, but you know what I mean, well, then pretty cool car. Anyway, so again, the Range Rover Sport 2023, I'm going to be doing plenty more videos, but that's also and finally going to segue me into my last piece, and that is I aim for this video to be amongst the last of my videos in the consumer related space. And the reasoning why is because I've spent way too much money personally on all the things, and I don't want to perpetuate that cycle or that ideology within other people, and I certainly don't want it to live on within myself. So having this largely unnecessary vehicle is sort of the final, nail in that particular coffin. And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to have to buy things and be trying to constantly review these things that everyone else is, and just again feeling the cycle of consumerism. And I know that sounds so ridiculous coming from the guy sitting in a brand new Range Rover Sport. It just doesn't make any sense. But I hope that in time you guys will come to understand and see the trends of my newer videos, which I do largely plan to use this space for, because I think it's a pretty good format, and I think it'll be what works for me and what I want to do. And I want to talk about more of the life things, not just the pieces that have gotten me to where I am, but also, share a little bit of, as tacky as this is going to sound, but wisdom. And the only reason why I'm going to use that particular line and that idea is because I've been told on several occasions that I am that. I've been given the title of wise, and I don't want to project that as if that, some holier than thou or some sort of, piece of me being any better than I am. I'm just, at the end of the day, another average guy, sort of. But I'm not better than anybody else. I never have been. I never will be. And the people that get that idea when it comes to things tied to their purchases or their wallet or their looks or whatever it might be, it's just crazy to me. It's just crazy to me. And in many respects, it's actually pretty depressing. So I hope that maybe I can change that view. Maybe I can share some of the things that I do know that really matter. Some of the things that ultimately lead to a happier life, a happier way of being. And maybe have an audience that will listen and be able to understand and see that life isn't all about the trivial surface level things. It's not. It's so far from that. And I think that's the other piece that so many people continue to get wrong. And that's where that saying of money doesn't buy happiness comes from, I think. And I'm not saying that as somebody who has a whole ton of it, but the perspective, at least, that I can understand from that statement is that money, no, it doesn't buy happiness. But what it does do is it buys freedom. And that's where the happiness can come from. Happiness is derived from you on the inside. It comes from what you know and feel to be you, what resonates with you, what you are and can be. That's where that happiness stems from. And I don't know. I think that figuring it out, taking the time to stop and think about what you want, not just out of life, but what do you want for you? Not for anybody else, not to impress anybody else, not to win somebody else over, not for anybody else at all. But you, what do you want? And so I think that if you can answer that question, and it doesn't relate at all to anything material, it doesn't relate at all to anything tangible, and instead comes down to things related to your sense of self, whether that's to paint until the end of your days, or to take all that you've done and transfer it to the moon. I don't know. that's up to you, you know, or whether that's just kicking back on the beach side and being able to appreciate this grand splendor that we have in front of us, all around us every day that we're above ground, and realize that, hey, you know, maybe my circumstances aren't that bad. Maybe I can do better with my circumstances. Maybe I can help other people. And if you can aspire to that, I mean, you know, who cares? Who cares? It's up to you. It's up to you. It's not about me projecting that, right? I'm thinking about the things that I want and enjoy and like, and I know exactly what my end game is. I know exactly what I want, period, for me, for my happiness, for my continued sake of existence. I know exactly what I want. And I can guarantee you that none of those things are derived from material purchases, but rather it's magistrate money is one of the things that I will need in order to make all of my dreams and ambitions happen. And that's just sort of the unfortunate way of much of the world. You know, I guess I could say the first world, but I've always thought that those terms are kind of strange, because people talk about, oh, first world country, oh, third world country. No one's ever mentioned the second world country. What is a second world country? Define a first world country. What does that even mean? If you can't tell me, then perhaps maybe that word usage needs to change. Of course, it probably won't, but I would like to remain slightly hopeful in that maybe there will be a wave, a movement to change what we think of as far as worlds are concerned, because that made sense. We're going to roll with it, though, because here we are. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and close out this video, and I want to thank you all so very much for watching and tuning in and hearing my nonsense. I know this sort of started out the way I wanted, with the vehicle as the primary forefront, but it ended with that. So whatever that was, I got nothing, but there will be plenty more of that moving forward, and if you want to be along with me for the journey, I would be absolutely enamored. So thank you so much again for watching, and we'll see you again for the next video.